Book, Hornbil. Summary of Chapter 1, The Portrait of a Lady. The passage portrays the grandmother's life, her unwavering old age, her close relationship with the author in their childhood, and their subsequent drift apart as the author moves to the city for education. The grandmother's strong religious beliefs and her disapproval of the author's English education create a divide. Her love for feeding sparrows and her peaceful acceptance of her mortality are highlighted. The author's return from abroad marks a unique phase of reconnection. Her sudden illness and peaceful passing, in which she stops praying, demonstrate her sense of closure. Sparrows, which she fed daily, mourn her in silence. On the basis of the above paragraph, answer the following questions. Number 1. The three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad are: A. Early childhood friendship. The author and his grandmother had a close and loving relationship during the author's early childhood when they lived in the village. She would wake him up, get him ready for school, and accompany him to the temple school. B. Separation due to city move. When the author's parents moved to the city, their relationship changed as the author attended an English school, and his grandmother no longer accompanied him. She was disheartened by the differences in their beliefs and the nature of the education he received. C. Further drifting apart. As the author grew up, went to the university, and studied abroad, their interactions became even more infrequent. The author and his grandmother grew apart as their lives took different paths. Number 2. 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed when he started going to the city school. 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed when he started going to the city school. A. Dissimilarity in beliefs. The author's grandmother had traditional and religious beliefs, and she was distressed by the fact that the city school taught subjects that conflicted with her faith, such as science and English, which she did not believe in. B. Lack of spiritual education. The city school did not provide spiritual or religious education, which was essential to the grandmother's values and beliefs. She felt that her grandson was missing out on important teachings about God and the scriptures. C. Music lessons. When the author mentioned receiving music lessons at the city school, it deeply troubled his grandmother, as she associated music with immorality and considered it unsuitable for respectable people. This further alienated her from the author's education and upbringing. Number 3. 3 ways in which the author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. 3 ways in which the author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. A. Continuous prayer. The grandmother spent a significant portion of her day in continuous prayer, reciting her rosary and devoutly engaging in religious activities. B. Feeding sparrows. In the afternoons, she took time to feed sparrows in the courtyard of their home, which was a source of joy for her, and she cherished these moments with the birds. C. Spinning wheel. She also devoted a large part of her day to spinning on her spinning wheel, which was a traditional and meditative activity that reflected her simple and spiritual way of life. Number 4. The odd way in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she died. The odd way in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she died. Just before her death, the author's grandmother abruptly stopped her continuous prayers, and her lips ceased moving. She dropped her rosary, indicating that she had decided to stop praying and would not waste any more time talking to her family. This was an unusual behavior for her, as she was always deeply engrossed in her religious rituals. Number 5. The way in which the sparrows expressed their sorrow when the author's grandmother died. The way in which the sparrows expressed their sorrow when the author's grandmother died. When the author's grandmother passed away, thousands of sparrows gathered around her room and veranda. They remained silent, and when her body was carried away, they flew off quietly. The sparrows' silent presence and departure indicated a sense of mourning and sorrow, as they had been a significant part of her daily life and routine.